Hi, Scorpio rising sign. Here is your weekly forecast, and we are starting on the 2nd of February until the 8th of February. So, the very first stop is a Mercury and Venus conjunction that is in sextile to your Chiron. So this is going to be switching on your fourth and the sixth house. And that's actually the major focus for you this week. Maybe this is a conversation with a family member. You want to be sharing with them that you have got mental struggles, or maybe you're ready to fix up a connection with a family member and we want to be having kind of like a serious chit chat about it. Maybe you are ready to beautify your daily environment, work environment, home environment as well, because you would like that to be supporting your own vitality. Maybe actually you get support from your family, and that gives you an element of a strength. It becomes easier to manage your daily task, your daily work. Potentially, even it could indicate that you would like to kind of like discuss with family members that they have to be able to chip in when it comes to the rent, the daily tasks, cleaning up, and so forth, so that you have got a bit more autonomy going on. I can imagine that you are ready to speak your kind of like private truth, for example, with a coworker or something that you have been carrying in your body for a very long time. And maybe you need a bit more rest as well because you feel burnt out. I think maybe there is a breakthrough happening in your living situation, and that makes your daily tasks, your mundane chores, a bit more of a ritual. Maybe you do these kind of like clearing out your closet type of things to feel better. Now we've got 29-degree Saturn on your in your fifth house. And you are about to be finishing a 2.5 year cycle. That Saturn try to structure your creative as well as your romantic life. Imagine this as a final audit, looking at whether I can make my hobbies a potentially a tangible income, or what makes me happy, what makes me joyous, and whether I'm expressing myself the way I am meant to be doing that. Maybe this is about finalizing a project of yours, or you have been building a kind of like a creative project, and now I'm gonna feel the urge to do something with that to kind of put a final stop to it. Maybe it was a 2.5 year test of your ability to experience pleasure or play, or maybe you are about to be finishing, for example, a romantic endeavor of yours because it feels like that it's not going anywhere. I think it's about closing the door on an old way of expressing yourself, and then maybe you are ready for taking your love life, taking your everyday life a little bit more seriously. Next up is Sun in your fourth house makes a sextile to Ceres in your sixth house. So another fourth and sixth house activation. And it can indicate, for example, that your home life is giving you that fuel you need to be able to excel, for example, in your daily work tasks, in your fitness routine. Maybe you realize that you have got certain type of emotional eating habits, and I want to kind of like cut back on that. I want to start a fitness routine and so forth. Or there could be a shift in your living situation. And potentially this might be coming with a work change. Or I can imagine that you are getting tired of something repetitive energy in your daily routines and you would like to be upgrading something. So imagine that you are going to be buying a new Hoover, for example, those self-running Hoovers and so on. I can imagine also that it's about you coming together with family members and then kind of like working something out or working on something together. Or even it could actually indicate that we are kind of like planning a little bit of a family trip because Ceres is 3 sign away from the fourth house. So we want to go because that might be helping to reconnect ourselves. It's Ceres is kind of like the mother and the daughter bonds type of archetype. So we've got Mercury moving into the sign of Pisces, and it's going to be spending a good 3 weeks there. I think it's a creative voice there. It's about potentially you finding yourself communicating with your inner muses or through symbols, or this is a little bit of a more of a romantic type of placement here. So potentially you might want to kind of create bonds with others, go on a date, maybe playing with a child a little bit more. And in existing relationship, this might be a little bit like something is missing within the partnership, and then we want to kind of boost that slightly bit. I can even imagine that there is a project you have been working on, and now it's about kind of like finishing it up again. But secondly, this could talk to us about a bit like adding a little bit more creativity to it. I can imagine that you are going to be doing a lot of healing when it comes to your inner child. Or maybe you are going back to a potential hobby that you used to do as a child, but that was kind of like a survival for your traumatic experiences. Remember, Mercury is going to go retrograde in the sign of Pisces. So it's not just 3 weeks actually that it spends here, but it's going to be a longer period of time. But of course, we're going to be talking about that more in detail in February, because of course that's going to be quite a big shift. All Mercury retrogrades are going to be happening in water signs, and the very first one is in the sign of Pisces. So it's kind of like speaking to that inner child, healing potentially the inner child, especially if you went through certain type of traumatic experiences before. This is not necessarily a logical Mercury anymore. This is just kind of like riding the flow of joy and thinking about potentially reconnecting with that inner spark, the creative child with a romantic endeavor and so forth. Or even it can be your confidence, but there's a lot of healing potentials here. We've got Venus and Uranus square. Now, Venus is in your fourth house and Uranus is in your seventh house. So this could talk to us about that there are certain type of shifts happening kind of like abruptly in your home life, which might be affecting your relationship department as well. Or you feel this urge to liberate yourself from any type of domestic or family agreements. Imagine that we decide out of the blue that we want to move. Imagine that I want to move out. I want to break up with my partner. There could be an unexpected family event that disrupts somehow certain type of plans connected to your one-to-one bonds. Or maybe you are breaking free from a private role that was limiting your relationship freedom. Or I can even imagine that something is going down in your family, which is going to be shocking your partner. This could even indicate scenarios where a partner of yours is all of a sudden deciding to leave their job behind, quitting, or their contract gets terminated. The fourth house is the job of the partner. Then our next stop is a couple of or a few asteroids. We have got Hopi and Phaeton entering the sign of Taurus, which is actually your seventh house. So another indication here of a focus on relationships. Maybe a relationship that is actually going at high speed, and then we are at the beginning of a relationship, but I'm going to get proposed. I'm going to move together with someone and so forth, or we are about to be signing a contractual agreement when it comes to a property. You might decide out of the blue that you want to be walking out of a relationship. That can feel like that's the right course of action. Or the partner does it, and I want to kind of respect that choice. Or a contract negotiations could be marching forward super fast as well. But it is telling you that you need to stay grounded, to ensure that somehow your personal values are not compromised, or pretty much you can see the details as well. But it looks like that we want to do right by the partner, or we want to be making the right decision when it comes to that partnership, contractual agreement, and romantic connections also. And we have got Nemesis entering the sign of Capricorn. And the reason why it's actually super important is because Nemesis will be here in your third house for the entire year, basically. This is actually telling you to be impeccable with your words when it comes to talking, teaching, professional meetings, and so forth. It has to be with integrity. Otherwise, it's going to be something that might get discovered super quickly and we can get into trouble. Like I said, Nemesis is going to be retrograde here. So it's going to be leaving the sign of Capricorn on top of my head early December. So, of course, that will be talking to us a longer period of time. And especially it's important period for you if you have got any planets, for example, in the sign of Capricorn. But I also feel like with Nemesis, what could be happening here is that um, there could be a misunderstanding. For example, we can be the victim of certain type of gossip, or we might be letting the cat out of the bag about someone, and then, it can actually cause certain type of trouble. And with Hopi and Phaeton, the partner can even pull you into kind of like a quick plan. And that would be testing whether you kind of like on board or like how courageous you are. I feel like for you, Scorpio, this is a bit of a quiet conversation this week. Uh, Potentially, there's a bit of a chronic physical tension there, and we're gonna have to be able to talk up about it, especially if something is actually hurting us. I think that's going to be very important here to remember. I would also say that just doing a bit of a summary, of course, I believe that the 29 degree of Saturn is super important because even in Neptune moving into the sign of Aries, Saturn will follow very shortly. But in the Neptunian chart, the ingressed chart, Saturn is still sitting on 29 degree of Pisces, meaning that you have got a closure to do in your fifth house. So surely I would be focusing on that quite significantly. So I hope that is helpful. And I hope to see you next week as well. But focus on the domestic piece, basically. If we are having conversations with our family members, that is providing certain type of a healing. And maybe that's what exactly you need to maintain your everyday life as well. So good luck. See you next week. Bye bye.